Hey everybody, I'm back for another video. This one is going to be talking about how to create rendering. So I brought up my little plunger or the shooter mechanism. Obviously, it is what it is, but basically the concepts are the same for rendering. So first thing you need to do is you need to bring up your render tools, okay? And the best way to do that is you should all have a tab called SolidWorks Add-ins, and you're going to click in there and you're going to turn on Photo View 360. When you do this, it should take about a minute, 30 seconds to a minute for this to pop up. And when it's working, you'll know because then you'll see a new tab. Sometimes you'll recognize it, sometimes you won't see it until it's there. You'll see Render Tools, okay? And this is what you're going to be using to create your renders. So there's a couple of things. First off, there's an Options tab here, and that Options tab, if you select it, allows you to output your image size to various views. Okay, so you can have different aspect ratios, different resolutions. Definitely depending, you want to be higher res and a larger image. 800 by 600, that's the old computer standard. This is more the HD type stuff. So you want to try to look for maybe a 1280 by 720 or a 1920 by 1080. That's a nice good size there. And so I'm going to pick the 1280 by 720 for my aspect ratio. Output ambient occlusion. You can do that. That's basically, all the ambient light and the little shadows and things of that nature. And then the image format. Again, you've got a lot of different formats here. If you know anything about these photo formats, that'll definitely help you. But JPEG is a lossy compression format. They do have JPEG 2000 with lossless compression. Basically, it just means whether they're combining similar colors to save on the file size. PNGs, TIFFs. Usually most of these they'll work well, and then from JPEG you can actually output and save to PDF, so that you could even pull into like PowerPoint and save that one image file as a PDF from a JPEG or from a PNG file. So that's kind of the way that you should think about this. So I'm going to select JPEG. And then, of course, you can save exactly to where that image will go when you do save. The preview render quality starts at good, goes to better, best, and then maximum. Obviously, the more that you use these, the longer your preview is going to take to create. So I'm just going to leave mine at better. Final render, you probably want to be at best. And again, that'll take some time to complete the rendering. Bloom you can turn on and might add some realism, like these little halo effects and whatnot from lighting. And really that should be about it. So I'm going to click my green check for that as far as option goes. And you can set your own options based on whatever you think you need to do for your rendering. So if I just do a basic render, I'm going to zoom in on my part so that it fills up most of my screen or all of my screen and just do a preview window. And I'm going to say continue without camera or perspective. And just going to show you what the basic is going to look like here. So that pops up after a few seconds. And it's going to go through a sizing, and you'll see a little bar on the bottom here, and you can see this kind of rendering slowly pixelating. I'm going to watch this little gray bar. It's 50% up until it gets up to 100%. You can also check on this full resolution preview, so it'll give you a really good idea of what that final render might look like. So again, we're creeping up towards 100%. You will notice that the materials do look a little bit different from our model, and the appearances and stuff and the materials that we use in model is a simulation of what we're actually going to see. The rendering basically makes it look more photorealistic. All right, so we're almost here, 96% and climbing. And I can see that information right here, and 98. All right, so the rendering for the preview is done. So this is what my preview would look like, or my render would look like. And I can save this preview image, all right? And if I do that, it's going to take me to my browser, my window browser, where I can save it wherever I want to. And again, saving as all these different file types. Unfortunately, PDF is not in the list. But again, you guys do have the ability with the download of Adobe Creative Cloud. You could definitely save it as a PSD or a JPEG, and convert it or save as a PDF. So I know that might be a little bit more work for some of you, but this is the way you have to deal with a variety of file formats. Okay, so not everything is clear cut, but it is widely accessible in many, many programs for you to reconvert. So I'm just going to cancel because I'm not going to save this, because I do want to show you some other quick little tools to get a really cool rendering. So the one main thing that I'm going to do here is, well, we talked about editing the scenes, and I'm just going to apply a quick scene to give it a little bit of extra pop or extra color. I don't want anything crazy, but we'll do some rooftop coloring here just to get some interesting background. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the feature management tree area, and the little icon tabs up top, I'm going to go to the display manager. That's the 4-colored ball. And I'm going to select that. And underneath that tab, I've got 3 more little icons, which is view appearances, viewing decals, and scenes, lights, and cameras. So this was the warning that SolidWorks gave me in the very beginning, saying, hey, do you want to continue with perspective and cameras, or do you want to just, go at it as is? So you can go in here afterwards or automatically, but I prefer to do it manually because I have full control. And I'm going to go down to camera, and there's no camera because there's no drop down, so I need to add a camera. To add a camera, I'm going to right click on this camera icon, and I'm going to say add camera. And what that's going to do, that's going to split my screen into 2. All right, so the right hand side is the view that I see. The left-hand side is kind of my workspace, and I can zoom in and out of here, and I can see that there is indeed a camera. And I can orbit around, and you can see kind of the orientation of that camera. It's currently set to like that, southeastern or isometric view. And we can change the target. Right, so I can point it to any particular spot on my subassembly. I'm going to put it out in front here. I can use the yellow ball then to kind of move around, or use the arrows, and it'll use this little red dot as the target as a pivot point. Okay, so you can use that as a pivot point, and you can see the result on the right hand side. So I'm going to zoom this down a little bit, there like that, and I'm going to use the red arrow to kind of pivot about, something like that. And I'm going to move my target so that I can be a little bit more in a good spot where I can sort of see everything. That looks almost where I want it to be. And then I'm going to use the blue arrow to kind of zoom in onto that. There we go. So now you can see the perspective here is, it's starting to kind of do that vanishing point where it's starting to distort a little bit. So in my property here, I can change that setting under field of view, and I can check off perspective, and it gives me a flat view. So that really depends on you, whether you want the perspective, whether it's too much for you, or not. So you can turn that on and off. You can have different camera positions. You can do it spherically or based on the Cartesian system. You can have a very specific target. So if there's a part that you would like to target, you can click on that, and that would take care of that. Under the field of view, you can actually change the lens. So you can change to a telephoto, different millimeter telephotos, or wide angle, and get different effects. I think the 50 millimeter is a good starting point. And then you can change, obviously the viewing angles, the focal length, and the height, um, and kind of crop your view a little bit more. So last thing is the very bottom, depth of field. By default, it is checked off. So I'm going to select that on. There we go. And even though you don't see it, the scroll bar opened up a little bit more. So now I can scroll down and I have some more options for depth of field. So as soon as I did that, these blue, light blue and dark blue rectangles appeared. And it basically shows you what the depth of field is, okay? And the dark blue rectangle in the middle, that's your main focus. And kind of anything inside this trio of rectangles is what your focus is going to be. So you can focus by selection, or you can use the depth and the field icons to kind of move these elements into certain areas. So let's say if I wanted to focus on the knob and I wanted to tighten up that depth of field just on the knob, basically the knob would be in focus and everything else receding back would be out of focus and a little bit blurry. All right, so the trick now is to do the rendering. You don't want to check out of this, okay? You check out of this, you're going to lose your view. So I'm going to go right up to my preview window and give that a moment to load up. There it is. So I should have the knob in focus and the rest of it slowly going out of focus. So we'll see if that indeed is the case. So there's my perspective. Background looks pretty cool. Updating almost at 50%. So we can sort of see already that the back end of the shooter is starting to be a little bit, so this is more fuzzy in the back. Okay, and that's the way that we want it to be based on what we decided to make our settings. So wait till that's done. 97%, right? I see that down here, 99. All right, so the rendering is done. It's complete. We've got more focus here and less focus. It's kind of blurry, fuzzy, so you get a nice photo view. It adds a little bit more realism to your image, to your rendering. I'm going to click out of this because I'm not going to save it. I'm going to do the same thing. This time I'm going to move my depth. And I'm going to move those three to the back end and focus more on this little back end tip here. Okay, so I reset that. I'm going to do the same thing. Go to my preview window. Give that a moment to pop up as well. And we should see a slight difference. We should now see that bronze or copper knob be a little bit out of focus and that end or the tip of the shooter to be more in focus. So I already see it being a little bit fuzzy on that bronze knob, so that's good. We're at 50%, 65%. This one's a little bit faster. All right, so 75%, almost done, 85%, and that's the result, right? So you can definitely take something out of focus and bring certain aspects of your pinball machine into focus to kind of give it a little bit more realistic look. Or you can just do a flat, don't use the depth of field at all. So this is almost done, 99%. So we can see a lot of focus here, nice and sharp image. And as we move towards here, it's a little bit more cloudy and fuzzy. So again, up to you if you want to use that or not. You don't have to. When you're ready, you can save that image and you can just go to Final Render. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this back and I'm going to focus a little bit more on the middle, and I'm going to use the f-stop, or the focal length rather, to open up. There we go, and bring it back a bit so the whole thing will be in focus. And I'm just going to click on Final Render. Now I set mine to like best, so this might take a while and I'm not going to do the whole thing. But again, it will now give me the similar type of preview window, and it'll start to, slowly work its way. So what's happening now is it gave me a preview window and then a final render window. So I just clicked away the preview window. This is the final render window. You can see it going pixel by pixel or a group of pixels. It's actually going pretty quickly, so I might just leave this as is. About 60% of the way done. And again, once this is complete, you can save this image down in the bottom left-hand corner. All right. You can also compare options. So what'll happen is every time you do a rendering, it'll propagate that final rendering down here on the bottom. You can see that this is the size that we specified at the very beginning with the options or the rendering options. So it looks like we're all done. Good. Final color output. I get the little chime saying that we're all set, and save the image. Okay, so same thing, brings up your browser window. You can save it to whatever file format you would like, and I'm just going to say, I'll save this over to my class, and I'm going to say sample render and save it. All right, so I've got that all squared away, and let's see, I'm on the bottom here. Can I move this up? Looks like I need to hide my taskbar to get to the very bottom because this is taking up my entire screen. So, okay, let me do that. Let me see, right click on my taskbar. Let's not lock it. Or rather, sorry, right click, taskbar settings. And I want to be able to hide the taskbar in desktop mode. So there we go. And X. So now I see my window. That's perfect. And I'm going to X out of that. So now my preview window I don't really need anymore. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to green check since I'm happy with what I've got. And I'm going to start a brand new drawing. And you can use this for your cover sheet if you would like to. So be landscape. And I'm going to ignore all of this stuff here. And I'm going to left click inside my workspace. And I need to insert picture. And I'm going to find, there's my sample rendering. Click OK. That's going to bring it into my sheet. And I'm going to click on one of those grips and kind of expand it. And you can use that for, don't worry about this, this little arrow. That's just length scale. And you don't have to worry about it too much. Basically, you just want the corners to work out for you. And this is what you're going to do for your cover sheet possibly, okay? Or every time you introduce a subassembly, you can have a nice rendering, or you can take that picture and just put it on a blank PowerPoint slide and save that as a PDF. So whatever you need to do, then I'm going to green check this, and that looks good. If you need to edit, double left click on the rendered image, and you can resize it if you like to after that. All right, that's pretty much that with renderings and how you can, up your rendering skills just a tiny bit. If there are any questions, always email me, and I look forward to seeing your projects. All right, we'll see you all soon.